We are drowning in information while starving for knowledge. The essence of the independent mind lies not in what it thinks, but in how it thinks.
Hello, I'm Trevor, and welcome back to the Knowledge Management e-learning videos prepared for the Philippine Red Cross. This video is going to be focused on critical thinking. We all know how to think. Well, at least most of us do. But do we really know how to think critically? And do we even know what this means? Let's find out. So, critical thinking. This is an old skill, but one that is now more important than ever. Critical thinking is defined as the objective analysis of facts to form a judgment. This means questioning whether your facts are reliable, because of course you don't want to make decisions using false information. This has been the traditional way of thinking critically, using facts to back up conclusions and actions. However, we are presented with a new problem that has given new importance to thinking critically. Today, we have too much data and information at our fingertips. With current technology, we are able to collect, store, and access way more information than was possible before our Red Cross chapters received laptops and internet connections. We are, in some ways now, drowning in information. Remember how I explained data, information, and knowledge previously using the example of 647,893 trees? And how that number itself was so large to be not especially useful by itself? We are in some ways facing a similar problem with the Philippine Red Cross now. And this can pose a problem. Do you remember the quote that this video started with? American scientist E.O. Wilson opined that, quote, "We are drowning in information while starving for knowledge," unquote. I definitely agree with this statement. Remember how we said wisdom guides our action? This means that too often now we have an abundance of information, but we don't always use it effectively to make decisions or take more meaningful actions. I experienced this myself, and I notice it happening with the Philippine Red Cross as well. You at the Philippine Red Cross are great at collecting so many types of information for reporting purposes. However, much of this information does not seem to be used or is seldom used for any other purposes. This is why this e-learning video is going to challenge you to think critically, not only about whether information is true or not, but also critically think about whether each piece of information collected is useful or is serving as a distraction that you are metaphorically drowning in. I'm going to read some quotes from a book called Everybody Lies by Seth Stevens Davidowitz. The author is an internet data expert and analyzes our internet usage to draw conclusions by arguing that we are more honest with our search terms than we are with human surveyors. Stevens Davidowitz has so much data to work with, but cautions that having more data or information is often unhelpful, saying that, quote, "The size of a data set, I believe, is frequently overrated. There is a subtle but important explanation for this. The bigger an effect, the fewer the number of observations necessary to see it. You only need to touch a hot stove once to realize that it's dangerous. You may need to drink coffee thousands of times to determine whether it tends to give you a headache. Which lessons are more important? Clearly, the hot stove, which because of the intensity of its impact, shows up so quickly with so little data. unquote. He goes on to say that, quote, in fact, the smartest big data companies are often cutting down their data. At Google, major decisions are based on only a tiny sampling of all their data, unquote. Google management has realized that they need to think critically regarding what data they use to guide their actions, because otherwise they will be drowning in too much of it. Not only can too much information be distracting from what is important, but there are costs to collecting and storing information, including time and energy. Even watching this video costs time and electricity, so I sure hope you think it is worth it. Stevens Davidowitz summarizes his arguments by saying, quote, you don't always need a ton of data to find important insights. You need the right data, unquote. He recognizes that having information for the sake of having information is not helpful in itself, and it is best to focus on only the most relevant data to help you achieve wisdom and focus your actions. How do you stop drowning in information and instead take action? The first is by clearly setting your goals and making them clear to your team. This can start out very simple. Think for a second how many different attendance sheets you have been required to fill out for all of the trainings and events you have attended over your professional and personal life. Some are formalized on printed sheets with organization logos, while others were made hastily on a piece of paper torn out from someone's notebook. Stop for a second and try to remember the last attendance sheet you signed. What fields did it request the attendee fill out? Was there a spot for your first and last name, age, gender, email or phone number, job, membership in an organization, signature? Sometimes attendance sheets will ask for all of this information, and sometimes it will only ask for just your name or signature. Why did the attendance sheet ask the questions that it did? Does asking this extra information help to achieve any project goals? When I make an attendance sheet for Cuso, I only collect the information that I know I will need. And as knowledge management leaders, you should be aware of what information you are collecting and know why you are collecting it. This is why setting goals and making sure everyone knows them is so important. Do you remember a few videos ago when we defined the difference between tacit and explicit knowledge? Well, critical thinking is arguably tacit knowledge and is built up over time from experience and from learning from others. It is something that has to be practiced, and it is difficult to transfer or teach. So I've had to use some creative examples here first in this video, before getting into some examples that are specific to the Philippine Red Cross. By now, I have told you a few bad jokes that most of you likely did not laugh at. However, these jokes were not included just to try to keep us entertained as we go through these long videos. I would argue that one of the benefits to using humor is that it actually encourages you to think critically. Clive James said that, quote, common sense and a sense of humor are the same thing moving at different speeds, unquote. Many jokes take the form of what Canadians call a play on words. This means one thing in one context, but an entirely different thing in the context your joke is applying it in. By challenging the context in which we normally consider things, we discover new perspectives and search for different angles and surprises as we go about the world. Comedians search for irony in many aspects of their lives, and this cynicism can allow them to make us consider things differently and laugh at normally mundane things. In short, using humor often compels us to think critically. Let's watch how comedian Kellen Erskine does this using a simple but clever example from a supermarket.
Every time I'm inside a grocery store, I take someone else's cart. Do it, full of food, take it. It is so much faster. And you get to try new things. Do it, it's not wrong. Tell me how that's wrong. That's not stealing. What could they possibly even say to you? Excuse me, I gathered that.
See how Erskine was able to turn something very normal and mundane that we do not ever question normally and suddenly turn it on its head? Yes, it is a ridiculous situation that is unlikely to happen to you, and I'm definitely not encouraging you to go take other people's shopping carts. But it is a great example of challenging assumptions and thinking outside of the box. If you never question the way things are done, you will never be able to proactively change your processes. Let's return now to some Red Cross examples. For the Kaanak project, the Canadian Red Cross commissioned a baseline survey. The survey designers included a few questions such as, what material is your roof made from? And what type of toilet do you have in your home? Is it an open pit or flush toilet? But wait, Kaanak is not building homes for people, and it does not have a wash component. So why did they ask these questions if they are not part of the project? The reason the survey designers gave in their training workshop for why they asked these questions is that they are good indicators of how impoverished a barangay is. A barangay with more open pit toilets is less likely to be developed, and this can provide wisdom on where to direct funds. So they had a clear reason for asking these questions. Now, let's consider some of the questions on the standard household profiling survey that the Philippine Red Cross NHQ requires all internationally funded special projects to do. Some of the questions on the household profiling survey include whether the respondent is registered to vote and what their religion is. If the Philippine Red Cross, like the International Committee of the Red Cross and all members of the IFRC, is an apolitical organization, then why does NHQ want to know who is and who is not registered to vote? They are not mobilizing these people for political purposes, and whether they are a voter or not should not make a difference to the services they receive from the Red Cross. So why ask this question? Is it used to help judge how educated a barangay is? How strong their community and civil society is? I don't know the answer to this question. The same can be asked regarding religion. Does the Philippine Red Cross help different barangays differently, depending if they are Catholic, Protestant, or Muslim? Of course they do not. So then, how does collecting and reporting this information help the special projects or the beneficiary barangays? So, if there is something that doesn't make sense while you are doing a survey or any kind of information gathering for the Red Cross, ask someone about it. Ask your CDO or CPC or NHQ to explain something. Maybe there is a good reason they need you to collect this that we don't know about. Maybe there is not, and they did not realize that it is a burden on the team. But the only way to know for sure is to ask. Do you remember the olives in the airline salad? Some part of the survey might be a metaphorical olive, which your bosses did not realize was this olive. The most important step in thinking critically is asking why. Some people advocate that you should ask why 5 times in a row to get real insights and understand something. The greatest critical thinkers of all time are probably philosophers who spend their entire lives asking why. Of course, none of us is going to dedicate ourselves to that level of asking why, but we do need to be in a routine of asking why as we go about our work. This can be as simple as asking why this is important. Why are we doing this way instead of that way? And as knowledge management leaders, all of us should be comfortable asking and answering these questions and willing to make changes to how we manage knowledge. In this video, I tried to group together a few different practices under critical thinking. So I'd like to recap them quickly just to make sure you know all of them and can avoid drowning in your information in the future. The first is to set goals that the whole team understands and only collect information that helps achieve those goals. The second thing is to think outside the box and ask if there's a different or a better way to do things that we always do the same way. The last is to always ask why and consider if what you are being asked to do is an olive in the airline salad. If you practice all these things, yourself and the Philippine Red Cross are going to be better prepared for the future. I'm also going to be posting several videos and articles in the Google Classroom to help you make sense of critical thinking, and I hope you check those out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.